Have you ever stopped to think about what really happens after death? Is there only absolute silence, or does something much greater and mysterious await us on the other side? Imagine this: a man suffers a serious accident, his heart stops beating, and for a few minutes, he is clinically dead. But instead of darkness, he claims to have heard voices from beyond, voices that guided him back to life. What you're about to discover may surprise you, because we're talking about near-death experiences, real accounts of people who hovered between life and death and brought back stories that defy logic and science. Many describe feelings of peace, intense light, or encounters with deceased relatives. But this case draws attention to an intriguing detail: the presence of invisible voices, almost as if a greater force were guiding each step of the return. Are these voices merely the product of a desperate mind, or a sign of spiritual dimensions we don't understand? Have you ever experienced this, or do you know someone who has? Stay with me until the end, because as we delve into this account, we'll explore not only what this man saw and heard, but also the profound impact this experience had on his life. These stories of those who died for minutes and returned contain details that defy simple explanations, raise questions, and at the same time, offer hope. It's as if, for a moment, the boundary between the visible and the invisible opens before us, revealing that death may not be the end, but merely a passage. And it is precisely at this point that our journey today begins. And while you follow this story, I want to open a special space for you to join this conversation. If this topic resonates with you, leave a comment below with what touched you most so far, or even if you've experienced something similar or know someone who has. Each comment brings new perspectives and helps build a community where we can all reflect together on the mysteries of life and death. And do you know why this is so important? Because when you share your perspective, others can relate and find comfort, hope, or even the answers they've been searching for. So, take advantage and like this video. This simple gesture strengthens the channel and shows that it's worth continuing to bring stories and reflections like this. And if you're not yet a subscriber, subscribe now and turn on notifications. This ensures you'll be updated with every new piece of content we publish, and at the same time, helps us bring these stories to more people who need to hear messages like this. Your participation here is what makes this channel grow and reach more people with this type of content, and I'm happy to know that we are building this space for exchange and inspiration together. And while you are part of this journey by leaving your comment, liking and subscribing, let's go back to the experience of this man who, between life and death, heard something that completely changed his existence. On that ordinary day, which began like so many others, this man's life took an unexpected turn in a matter of seconds. A violent accident interrupted his routine, throwing him to the brink of existence and no longer existing. The impact was so strong that his body gave out immediately, and what followed was a succession of critical moments, marked by sirens, running around, and desperate attempts to keep him alive. When the doctors finally confirmed the arrest, there was no longer any doubt: he had entered clinical death. His heart had stopped beating, his breathing was no longer responsive, and before everyone's eyes, his body appeared to be nothing more than an empty shell. It's at this point that the story takes on a different meaning, because we're not talking about a brief loss of consciousness or a common faint. We're talking about a clear diagnosis, recognized by health professionals, in which all vital functions have ceased. It's precisely this detail that makes the account so intriguing, because, according to traditional science, there should be no record of memories or perceptions in this state. But it's precisely when logic seems to end that the inexplicable begins to emerge. Now I want to delve even deeper into this subject, because what's striking is not just the severity of the accident, but what it triggered in this man's mind and perception. When life is extinguished for a few minutes, what remains? Some would say emptiness, but here the void was filled with an intense experience, almost as if there were a hidden truth waiting to be revealed. It is in this silent space that the unexpected emerges: images, sensations, and even sounds that cannot simply be ignored. This journey between life and death not only left its mark on the body, but also profoundly transformed his mindset, as if every second there held a hidden purpose. And it is in this interweaving of mystery and impact that we begin to realize that the line between what we understand as life and what we call death is much thinner than we imagine. Comment there: I'm on this journey too. It was at that moment, when his body was no longer responding, that something extraordinary happened. He describes the sensation of seeing himself from the outside, as if he had been ripped from his own skin and placed at a vantage point above the scene. From up high, he could see every detail: the doctors rushing about, the hurried movement, the machines emitting signals that signaled the absence of life. Most strikingly, he didn't feel trapped by pain or fear, but by a kind of lightness, as if he had freed himself from a weight he hadn't even realized he was carrying. From this new perspective, the physical world seemed distant, almost irrelevant, and the only certainty was that he was no longer part of it. The clarity of the experience is impressive. He reports more vivid colors, amplified sounds, and even the ability to perceive things that, logically, he shouldn't have been able to record. He recognized objects in the room, overheard conversations between the professionals, and later described details that were confirmed by those present. It's as if you were behind the scenes of your own existence, observing everything from the outside without interfering in anything. This revelation completely changes the way we understand the boundary between consciousness and the physical body, because it shows that perhaps the mind, or the essence of who we are, doesn't depend solely on biology to exist. This out-of-body journey wasn't just an observational experience, but a moment of impact that brought about a complete transformation in his mindset. What seemed like an accident turned out to be an opportunity to see the hidden truth about life and death. This sensation of being on another plane, of seeing everything without being seen, awakened a new awareness in him, as if he had been invited to walk through territories few dare to explore. The journey made it clear that every detail had a purpose, and that the revelations to come would go far beyond any rational explanation. Right there, this makes sense to me. As he watched everything from above, believing he was merely witnessing the end of his own story, something unexpected began to happen. Amidst the strange silence, he heard voices. They weren't screams, they weren't confusing noises, but firm, soft, and yet authoritative voices. They seemed to come from all around him, as if echoing both inside and outside him. The curious thing is that there was no fear, just a sense of welcome, as if someone knew him deeply and knew exactly what he needed to hear at that moment. These voices didn't announce condemnation, but conveyed a clear message: it wasn't his time to go. This detail changes everything, because until then, he believed he was crossing a definitive boundary. But suddenly, his perception shifts. The voices bring a clarity he had never experienced before, as if each word were charged with a purpose beyond human comprehension. There was no doubt, no hesitation, only the certainty that there was something greater, invisible, guiding this journey. For him, it was as if he had received an intimate revelation, an invitation to rethink his entire existence and see life from a completely new perspective. The experience of hearing voices from beyond cannot be seen as merely a curious detail. It is a powerful force, capable of transforming anyone's mindset. Imagine experiencing the aftermath of your own death and at the same time, realizing that invisible decisions are being made, guided by forces beyond our control. For him, those voices were like beacons in the darkness, signaling that the journey was not yet over. This encounter opened the door to questions about hidden truth, purpose, and even what it truly means to be alive. It wasn't just a sense of comfort, it was the discovery that there is something greater shaping the path, even when all seems lost. Comment there, that makes sense to me. The moment those voices became clearer, he realized something even more intense was happening. It was as if an invisible force began to pull him back, tearing him from that state of weightlessness and transporting him back into his body. The sensation wasn't simple, because the contrast between being free and suddenly feeling the physical weight, the limitation, and even the pain, was overwhelming. He describes this transition as a sudden plunge, a powerful impact that awakened him with a completely different consciousness than before the accident. His heart started beating again, his breathing returned, and life, which seemed to have ended, began again right there in that instant. The most striking thing was that, although he had regained vital functions, he knew he was not the same man. Something inside him had changed forever. The experience left invisible scars, as if he had accessed a hidden truth that no one could ever take from him. It wasn't just the memory of having been out of body, but the certainty that there was a journey beyond what meets the eye. This rebirth confronted him with a profound transformation, not only in his way of thinking, but also in his way of living. Every decision, every choice, began to have a different impact, because he now realized that life is a gift that can be gone in the blink of an eye. Now I want to delve even deeper into this subject, because the return to life wasn't just physical. It carries the feeling of a renewed mission, as if I'd been given a second chance to accomplish something I hadn't previously seen clearly. This awakening brought a new mindset, a closer look at the behind-the-scenes aspects of our own existence and the signs we often ignore. What seemed like a mere accident became interpreted as a watershed moment, a milestone separating him from the man he was and the man he needed to become from that moment on. It was in this contrast between fragility and strength that the perception of purpose was born, something that would continue to reveal itself in the following days. Right there, this makes sense to me. After everything he's been through, it's impossible not to reflect on the profoundness of this experience. Facing death, experiencing the sensation of total absence, and yet returning with such vivid memories raises questions that defy any simple explanation. Are these experiences merely the product of a failing mind, a kind of biological defense against the inevitable end? Or are we, in fact, faced with signs that there is a reality beyond death, an invisible dimension that reveals itself precisely when the body gives up? With every detail of the story, with every clearly described memory, it seems as if a hidden truth insinuates itself behind the veil of what we call reality. This kind of experience not only leaves a mark on the person experiencing it, but also impacts those who hear it. We are invited to look at life differently, to realize that perhaps what we consider the end is just the beginning of an even greater journey. And this realization changes everything. It changes the mindset with which we approach our decisions, changes the way we interpret the behind-the-scenes aspects of everyday life, and leads us to question whether the coincidences we experience might actually be subtle revelations of something greater. When someone returns from the dead and claims to have heard voices, felt peace, or received guidance, we cannot ignore the possibility that existence is much broader than science has yet been able to explain. The true transformation lies not only in what he experienced during those minutes, but in what this experience awakens in us. It's as if life is calling us to see beyond the surface, to understand that each moment here can carry invisible meanings, ready to be discovered. Perhaps death is not a wall, but a passage, and these accounts are the clues that confirm this. Comment there, that makes sense to me. If you've made it this far, it's because this topic has also awakened something in you, just as it did in the man who lived through it all. And that's precisely why I want to invite you to subscribe to the channel. This way, you can continue to follow content that offers profound reflections and stories that can transform the way we view life and death. Also, take advantage and leave your like, because this simple gesture strengthens the connection we created throughout this video and shows that it's worth continuing to bring stories like this. And since you followed all the way through, leave a comment saying, "I'm with you until the end." It'll be a way for me to know who truly embraced this journey with me. And if this content resonated with you, there's a video right here that complements this topic. Click through and stay with me there, because there's still a lot that can further expand our perspective on all of this.